They have thought about shrinking it, but they are going to keep it intact right now.
All right, so we have Ben Briscoe on the scene right here. He was there for that news update, and he has other information as well. Ben?
Right now you are watching the 4 to 5 on WFMY News 2. We have entire team coverage out here of this major breaking story out of Winston-Salem. Throughout today, you'll notice every one of us out in the field in this team coverage are wearing a mask. That is because doctors say it is potentially dangerous to breathe in the chemicals from that fire. It is also potentially dangerous that that fire, according to the fire chief, could explode at any moment. The fire chief says if that does happen, he believes it would be the biggest explosion from a fire in United States history. Here's what's going on with that fire that's presenting that danger. They've got 600 tons of ammonium nitrate that have to burn off before we're in the clear. They're hoping that happens by Wednesday morning. Right now, drones have captured some smaller explosions already happening in the building, and evacuations are underway for 6,000 people that live within a mile radius. Just so you know, we are exactly 1 mile from the fire right now, and look how big those flames are from a mile away. You can actually see them from 10 miles away over in Kernersville. Man, officials say they don't know what started the fire right now, but they are working with the company who is fully cooperating with the investigation. Now, the Winston-Salem fire chief said that the company was actually inspected back in December and they passed with flying colors. They didn't find a single problem out there. Plus, the State Department of Environmental Quality says the company wasn't even on their radar until last night. That is because the chemicals out there aren't actually considered hazardous materials by the department. That's because they're safe when they're handling them under normal conditions. It is only when there is a big fire or a lot of heat that they become a problem. And they said that, in fact, the only problems with inspections out here that were found were from a workplace safety issue with OSHA. That was back in 2014. A worker was on the roof doing repairs when he fell to the floor. The company was fined about $9,000, but that's it. No problems out here since then. You know, Weaver is actually one of almost 500 companies that have license with the Department of Agriculture to manufacture fertilization in our state. However, the Department of Agriculture says this is definitely one of the biggest plants. That is because you might have even used their products too. They sell them at most of the garden stores, major garden stores nationwide. Here's what we know about this. The plant was where the fire is burning. The Weaver Fertilization Facility has been in Winston-Salem for 80 years now. It first opened for business in January of 1940. Since then, it's employed hundreds of workers over the years. Again, the company says that they are working fully for the investigation and that they are very thankful to the first responders and their fast response out here. Now, WFMY News 2's Jenna Krzina just talked with the Winston-Salem fire chief. Jenna, what'd you learn?
Hey, Ben, and you know, the thing that stuck out to me the most was at the end when Chief Mayo was asked if he was nervous, and he said, you know, in his 30+ years with the fire department, he never felt so uneasy being on the scene as he did last night in his entire career. He said he isn't nervous, but it definitely was an uneasy feeling last night. Now, you know, these crews have been working for more than, or close to 24 hours, I should say. Fire Chief Trey Mayo says so far today, you know, there were a few natural gas lines that were flowing. Those have been stopped. They're going to continue to maintain that 1 mile evacuation radius around the plant. EPA is on site, and before midnight, they will be broadcasting air quality data. Now, the wind is changing direction, so residents in the northwest area of the plant need to be aware of that. They're going to smell some of the odors and some of that is burning at the plant. They said it almost has a firework type smell similar to that, but officials are remaining to ask people with respiratory issues to stay indoors and people not to go exercise outside, but they couldn't be more clear asking people to remain outside of that 1 mile radius. All right.
The way the fire is behaving now is what we would like for it to continue to do, and that is burn off through surface combustion and consume the bulk of that ammonium nitrate. We do not know what the rate of consumption is. We just need it to burn out a fuel.
And they did say they are going to hold that 1 mile radius for at least 48 hours, which would be tomorrow around 7 p.m. And, you know, we're going to continue to bring you more from this press conference a little bit later in our newscast.
Jenna, thank you. While the government does not classify the chemicals in the fertilizer as hazardous under normal situations, I want to give you a better idea of how dangerous ammonium nitrate can be if something goes wrong. The National Institutes of Health says it's used to make fertilizers and explosives. It's odorless and colorless, and it's caused blasts at other industrial facilities over the years. Winston-Salem Fire Chief Mayo says it is very dangerous.
At about 450 degrees, ammonium nitrate becomes pretty unstable, and it sort of begins to react, and it kind of experiences a runaway exothermic reaction, and it can explode. I mean, I don't know how else to convey that to the viewers out there.
The Forsyth County Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection says they're closely monitoring air quality impacts from the fire. The EPA says their main concern is nitrous oxide.
Officials say the chemicals is mainly an irritant and can cause coughing or sneezing and could also irritate your skin.
We've seen a fire similar to this not too long ago. It became worse when in 2013, an explosion at a fertilizer plant in West Texas killed more than a dozen people. The West Fertilizer Company had 240 tons of ammonium nitrate, and the explosion killed 15 people, injured more than 200, and destroyed 150 buildings.
It was one of the most horrible things that I've ever seen.
I spoke with McLennan County, Texas Sheriff Parnell McNamara. He was on the scene of the fertilizer plant explosion in West Texas in 2013. He stresses safety as crews work to get the fire under control at the Weaver Fertilizer Plant in Winston-Salem.
From my experience with this, I would say evacuate everybody that you can, and hopefully it'll burn itself out. And if it does explode, you won't have 15 or 20 people dead. That's a sad part of this whole thing. The fertilizer plant is not worth losing one life. Get those people out. Let this thing burn itself out. If we had done that here, 15 people would be alive. The devastation is just tremendous.
Frank Patterson retired as the Waco McLennan County Emergency Management Coordinator in 2019. He tells me he vividly remembers the night of the 2013 West Texas explosion. He asked the community of Winston-Salem to listen to local officials as they continue to monitor the fire.
Everybody wants to show up and see what's going on. Don't do that. Let them do their job. Listen to their warnings. If they ask you to evacuate. You know, they're making the best decision with the best information they have at the time to protect life and safety, and that's really the key here.
Winston-Salem Fire Chief says there is more than twice as much ammonium nitrate in the Weaver fire as there was in the deadly West Texas fertilizer plant fire in 2013.
So certainly the primary weather factor impacting this fire is the wind. Now, it's not strong and it's actually been quite variable, meaning it's been changing a lot throughout the course of this day. But for the most part, the winds have actually been quite calm. This is a look at time lapse at Wake Forest University, where you can see that smoke continuously filling the skies out there in Wake Forest. And you can see as that wind direction changed, it actually allowed for that smoke plume to move away from the camera and kind of changing directions and moving much different. And I'll show you why. Now, the visible satellite, we generally look at this to look at cloud cover, but it also can be very helpful to look at smoke plumes across the area. Now, I know it might be difficult to see as that sun is starting to take its setting. We are going to start to see some black on here, but you can see very finely right there that in fact is that smoke plume. This is a time lapse over the last couple of hours. You can see how this wind has actually changed the direction direction of where this smoke plume is headed. And that is important when we talk about the air quality, because those who are downwind on the opposite side where that wind is blowing are going to be the ones directly impacted by that poor air quality. Now, over the entire area of Forsyth County, not a concern, but in a very concentrated area, more than likely within that 1 mile radius, wherever, if you see the smoke, you're probably going to be affected. So that's why it's strongly encouraged, if you have respiratory issues, to stay inside.
All right, I am talking about touch at work. A reminder for everybody now that everyone's getting together.
Two years into the pandemic, and we're seeing more people back in their offices for work. When it comes to your health and your job, you don't want to risk either, which is why most employers are being careful with keeping employees socially distant. But it's not uncommon to see someone hug or interact the way we used to. Blanca Cobb has a master's in psychology, and she joins us live now to talk about how you can keep your workplace, but also interact with those coworkers you haven't seen in ages. So Blanca, what should we be careful about when it comes to coming in contact with those colleagues?
Remember that the rules of contact are different at work, even if some of your coworkers are your friends outside of work. Look, you might not think anything of touching someone's hand, their arm, their back, even their leg when you're talking. There's a lot of excitement. We have been anxious to get back with other people, right? So it's very accepting to want to give big hugs to people, but you have to be very careful because someone's comfort level can be very different from yours. And once the excitement kind of drains down of seeing somebody later on, someone could reflect and say, they may not be sure about the contact, the physical contact.
Okay, so I've gone through this in the past. What happens if you want to hug a coworker or a colleague that you haven't seen in a long time?
Which is a very natural reaction, right? Of course, we're social people. However, you want to get permission, you want to ask, and you want a verbal yes. Hey, I haven't seen you in such a long time, Lauren. How about if I give you a hug? There's no ambiguity there. You don't want to rely on a nonverbal head shake because there's ambiguity that could lead into problems later on. And if we want to give a hug, you're at work. Why not give a side hug? bodies are right beside each other, you can have some distance. Or if you're going to give a regular hug, you want to make sure there's a lot of distance in between your bodies, and just maybe use one hand and put your hand over their shoulder.
The side hug, that is a good one. So Blanca, here's another question. Why should we think before reaching out to a coworker or making physical contact in the workplace?
Your innocent intent could be misinterpreted by somebody else. And you want to be very careful. We're at work. You want to be very careful with any possible harassment charges later on, right? You don't want any ambiguity. Your behavior is your responsibility. Again, your comfort level can be different from somebody else's. And then for upper management, a lot of times you got to be even more careful, because people may not feel comfortable speaking up. So you have to think, how would I react if someone were to approach me? Let me make sure that they really want a hug, or I'm not standing too close. Look, pay attention to their body language. They'll let you know. They may not say anything, but they'll move back a little bit, or they'll make grimaces on their face or turn their shoulders, which are all warning signs of, hey, this is too close. I'm a little uncomfortable. Don't see it as a rejection. Do not see it as rejection. Just see it as respect and give them that space.
All right, thank you so much, Blanca. Very, very great advice. We're going to have all of this information on our website, WFNYnews2.com, so you can go back and watch after the show.
Pfizer could apply for emergency use authorization for a vaccine for children ages 6 months to 5 years old. The 2-dose regimen would be the first coronavirus vaccine available for young children. The company was expected to submit an application sometime today. Officials say it could be approved as soon as the end of February. We'll be right back.
Hey there, mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, checking. I'm at ham 4. Let me get. We've all heard stories about the challenges that staff and students face at Title I schools. Well, both Mike Kennedy and Michaela Amadon have worked with Title I schools and know those challenges firsthand. I spoke with them about their sports programs and the gaps that exist in these schools. Take a look. Hey guys, thanks for being with us today. You know, the first thing I want to ask you guys, let's talk about the Title I schools. And when it comes to the sports programs, you guys are talking about that big gap. Describe what it's like in those schools right now.
You know, for a lot of these schools, it's really tough. You know, some of it comes down to geography, some of it comes down to, you know, how old is the school, their parent involvement and things like that. But some of these schools that we've gone to, they don't have enough money to have matching uniforms. One of the schools we work with, they had football, but they didn't have any footballs.
When you saw this, and you said you've worked at Title I schools, I mean, that motivated you guys.
We recognized when our kids were participating at these schools that there are discrepancies where you go against other schools that are not Title I that have matching uniforms or other opportunities and resources there for those kids. And it really just comes down to what's the experience that you have at a Title I school and how can you make it equal and make those kids feel like they're at an opportunity, they're at the same opportunities and advantages that other schools are that they're competing against.
And it sounds like when you guys say resources, it's not just the equipment, it's probably the opportunities, right? Like the programs within the schools. Talk a little bit about that.
At a lot of these schools, you recognize that kids don't come from the same resources and they don't have the personal equipment. So they try out for soccer and you're playing against a kid who is paid to play and they've got a jersey and a bag and the cleats and shin guards and a ball, and they're coming out for the sport for the first time and they may not even have cleats, but they want to participate in a middle school sport, and that's fantastic, and we just want them to feel like they're just as equal to be there as anyone else.
Yeah.
So these two have had a history, right? They have worked with Title I schools before. They work at Prolific Park as well, but this is something they decided to do on their own. They see these kids. The line that he said that always stuck out with me, he said they have kids that want to play football and a football team and no footballs.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
But I'm glad that they're doing this to try to get some of those resources into the schools, because I know I was involved in a lot of sports as a child and it really helped me with like discipline and just interacting with other kids and structure, and you make friends. I think that sports really do add a lot to your life.
Yeah, I mean, these Title I kids, I grew up and went to a Title I school because my mom was a teacher at one, and these kids, you know, they have free or reduced lunch. So you can imagine their home life might not be the best. So to have an outlet for like to go to sports and everything is so important for those kids to have, and to think that they can't even get that, you know?
Coaches are role models sometimes, right? I mean, I think that they connect with these kids. Now, in the next half hour, the reason I wanted to introduce you to them is because they've started their own organization called Beyond Sports, and they're trying to bridge this gap and get rid of this gap with sports equipment and sports programs at Title I schools. So we'll talk about that coming up.
Love it. Look forward to it. We'll be right back.
Hey, we've got some breaking news out here. The EPA just arrived on scene. Can you hear me? Okay. We have a breaking development out here at that massive fire at the fertilizer plant in Winston-Salem. The fire chief had told us that the EPA would be on scene testing to make sure that smoke, the flames, weren't putting dangerous chemicals out into the area. He said they expect to arrive by late tonight, but guess what? They just came by right down this street, and the EPA is actually now parked over there with all of the other emergency responders. You can also see all the crews out here covering this. This fire at this point has gained national attention. It is one that could be potentially dangerous if that chemical that's used to make the fertilizer ends up exploding. But right now, the fire chief says things are looking good. However, that chemical is very unpredictable, and he needs to keep watching it closely.
Well, it's a start to a brand new month today, February 1st, but as we look back to the month of January, it was certainly very cold. Do you remember the first day of the year was 77 degrees, and then after that, things just got cold and snowy across the area. The average temperature for this past month was 47.1 degrees, the average high temperature. Now, we haven't seen temperatures this cold. In fact, I looked back at the data since 2018. That's when we had a very cold January. Last January and the January before that were not as cold, but I think things are shaping up to be at least a little bit warmer over the next couple of days and drier, at least through tonight and tomorrow. We did see significant snowfall throughout the month of January. In fact, 8.2 inches of snow for the month. We haven't seen that much snow either since 2018, so we've been fairly dry. And like I said, high pressure in place, keeping us dry for tonight and continuing for tomorrow. That high pressure kind of locking its way in until a cold front sets itself up just to the west of us. That cold front kind of inching its way closer and closer through your Wednesday, and by Thursday we could be starting the day with some showers, sprinkles, some stray shower here or there. That continuing throughout most of your Thursday. The brunt of the front doesn't cross our area until Friday, and you can see on here those temperatures feeling warm. So the big story, it's getting warmer, and we should see some rain for your Thursday and Friday.
Today on U Day, Coach Lamont introduces you to Paul Robeson and shares how this African-American performer is helping us focus on the future.
Paul Robeson once said, "We must realize that our future lies chiefly in our hands. The future lives within you, and you are the one who can control it. Within us is the past, present, and future all residing. When the three collide, it creates an experience where we learn, apply, and then prepare. You are the controller of your fate. You hold the future, so what your story becomes is what you allow it to. Pull the future from within and step into it. It is your obligation not to be controlled by the things you can control. And what you control is the future you. You don't have to fall victim to a plot to steal your future, but take the reins of your life and position your life and future for ultimate success." This is Coach Lamont. Make today your best U Day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thousands of people within a mile of the Weaver Fertilizer Plant have had to evacuate. The Red Cross set up an emergency shelter here at the Forsyth County Fairgrounds.
10-9-876-54321, 10-9-876-54321.
Welcome back to the 4 to 5. I'm Lauren Coleman here with Eric Chilton, Stacy Spivey, and Monique Robinson. And we have Ben Briscoe. He is live out in Winston-Salem, where we are staying on top of the Weaver Fertilizer Plant fire there.
And we want to get right to what we know about that fire at this time. Officials say this afternoon, Piedmont gas workers shut gas lines leading to the Weaver Fertilizer Plant off. Drone video from the city of Winston-Salem showed officials there is not an immediate heat threat to a rail car located behind the facility. The rail car contains 100 tons of ammonium nitrate. Officials plan to maintain their 1-mile evacuation distance until possibly 7 p.m. Wednesday, according to officials. The Greensboro Hazmat team is in Winston-Salem waiting for further analysis from the EPA. WFMY News 2's Ben Briscoe joins us now live in Winston-Salem.
Ben, tell us about your drive to Winston-Salem and what it looks like out there now.
It was so weird. Once I got to Kernersville, you saw this really low cloud in the sky, except it was just a flat cloud like a box shape. The closer and closer you got, you realized that was the smoke from this fire right here. You could see it 10 miles away in Kernersville. I'm standing a mile away right now and you can still see the smoke down there. And the reason that is so important is because that mile zone is what they're trying to keep clear. They want everyone to be safe in that. And WFMY News 2's Avery Powell has more on what they're doing to keep those folks safe.
Thousands of people within a mile of the Weaver Fertilizer Plant had to leave their homes last night. The Red Cross did set up an emergency shelter here at the Forsyth County Fairgrounds, but some people have gone to hotels or went to stay with family to get to safety. Stephanie Armis's family is staying at a Best Western hotel in Winston-Salem for right now. She lives about 3/4 of a mile from the plant. She was on Facebook last night and saw the city of Winston-Salem notifying people to evacuate the area around the fertilizer plant.
I started packing, packing and panicking, and my kids were asleep at the time, so I was able to just kind of get the important stuff, throw it in bags, and then get them ready, throw them in the car, and then we came here.
Armis said before going on Facebook she had no idea there was a fire or that there was even a fertilizer plant with dangerous chemicals near her home. Destiny Barrios also found out about the fire on Facebook. She debated whether to evacuate or not while talking to her mother-in-law on FaceTime.
And it's crazy because when I was on the FaceTime with her, I heard a boom, and I was like, "Did you hear that?" She was like, "Well, I didn't hear it." And I was like, "Did you hear that?" So I opened my door, and then I heard another boom. As soon as I opened my door, it was like, boom. And I was like, "Yep, I'm going."
Barrios said she quickly got what she could and took her 3-year-old son to her mother-in-law's home in Kernersville. She tells me it's scary to not know what's going to happen with her home. And if you don't have somewhere to go, this emergency shelter at the Forsyth County Fairgrounds is open. The county also has a place for your pets if they need a place to stay for right now.
Avery, thank you for that update. Hundreds of you are reacting to the fertilizer plant fire on social media. Prayers are coming in, and many of the people just saying that they're in shock. Ginger here said, "Wow." Joey said prayers, and Kimberly says praying for the safety of all. And that includes John Webster, who's been in business with the plant for years. Webster Brothers Hardware first opened in 1954. John Webster is a co-owner with his brothers. He says he remembers buying fertilizer from Weaver back when he was even 16 years old. It's been a long-standing relationship, which made the news of the fire hard to hear.
It was heartbreaking. I mean, over the years, we've been here so long and developed relationships with people like that, and it's always been an easy relationship. You bought, purchased, everything was always there, everything worked like it's supposed to, and over time, it's like their family too to me.
John says even his daughter named her cat Weaver after the plant. They still hope they can do business with them.
Thankful that no one was hurt. Something that happened, at night while no one was there, and definitely be hard to replace manufacturing facility like that. But people are irreplaceable, and no one was hurt or anything worse.
Yeah, very thankful no one was hurt. But Webster says they'll continue to support the plant and the people that work there in any way that they can.
More than 6,000 people have been evacuated within a mile radius of the plant because of the risk of possible explosions. Officials say people should plan to stay away from their homes for the next 2 days. WFMY News 2 Sydney Moore heard from Winston-Salem Fairgrounds and Red Cross officials about their efforts to help those in need.
Well, the public assembly manager for the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds says with the help of Red Cross, they opened up their education building last night as soon as residents were being evacuated from their homes. Robert Mulhern says he and his team were happy to help and cleaned up the building quickly. Officials say the building can hold 100 people with proper COVID-19 protocols. It is a heated facility with chairs for people to sit and gives people access to snacks.
We work with a lot of community organizations all year long. So just knowing those folks and having a good relationship, it's important and makes these kind of processes smoother and more seamless and easier to accommodate, in situations like this.
The first couple we had come in actually had came here because they went to the police to ask where they could go. They heard the explosions outside their house. So before we actually announced the formal opening, they were already leaving and looking for a place.
The American Red Cross is also providing a space for first responders at Perimeter Point Boulevard and at the old DMV building on Patterson Avenue. People are able to get food and take a break when they need.
Sydney, thank you for that update. While crews monitor the situation, they want residents to remain safe. Officials say there is not immediate danger to life or health, but precaution is still needed, especially if you face any respiratory issues. Officials say stay indoors, keep your doors and windows shut. Outdoor exercise should be avoided due to the smoke and haze in the air.
All right, so this time-lapse view of Wake Forest is kind of our best image that we get to see where this smoke plume is located. So I want to look to your right-hand side of your screen. What you're seeing in the white right here is that smoke blowing off here in this direction. Now, earlier today, in the start of this Tuesday, it was actually covering the entirety of this camera because the wind direction was just a little bit different. And this here also on our visible satellite, if you look really closely right here, again, that is that smoke blowing off there towards the north and west direction. So the wind is coming from the south and east and blowing the smoke towards the north and west. I know it's a little bit tricky to understand, but where it's coming from sends it in the opposite direction. So that's what we're seeing now. And as we go into tonight, these winds are picking themselves just up a little bit, roughly around 11 miles per hour, as you can see, to start out the wee hours of your Wednesday morning. The winds coming out of the east, and sending the smoke towards the west by Wednesday morning.
We have some breaking news. Police in Minnesota say a student is dead, another injured after a school shooting outside Minneapolis. The student who was hurt is at the hospital in critical condition. Investigators say it happened just after noon outside the South Education Center in Richfield. The school has about 200 students from kindergarten and up. They received special education or alternate learning. This is a developing situation. Of course, we'll bring you any updates on air and online.
Today marks 62 years since the Greensboro Four stood up for justice by taking a seat and launched the historic sit-in movement. On February 1st, 1964, North Carolina A&T students sat down at the whites-only lunch counter at the Woolworths downtown. Every year, and this one as well, the university observed the anniversary with a breakfast celebration. The commemoration always ends with the laying of a memorial wreath at the February 1 monument on A&T's campus.
It's interesting. I know now for you guys that probably sounds like such ancient history, but I think about this. It was only 6 years before I was born.
Wow.
And for me to put that into perspective and think about the way that I've grown up and also the way you guys have grown up, it's so different, making progress, not where we need to be, but making progress. But it's hard for me to wrap my head around that I might have, I was only a few years from being in this world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It puts it into that time frame for me, and it It's
it was
recent
yesterday,
history. Yeah,
basically.
right.
I think that's why it's so important that we continue to share these kind of stories and that we revisit this every year and days beyond this year so that we don't repeat history and that people can realize there's still work that needs to be done. Maybe we're integrated at restaurants and libraries and things of that nature, but we have not reached equality in other sectors of our lives.
Yeah, we still have a long way to go. But looking back, I mean, what you said made me think about, my mom told me that when she was in school, that's when things were becoming integrated in her school system. So I think she was in maybe 1st or 2nd grade when that happened. So that really wasn't that long ago. So yes, a lot has happened since then, but like Lauren said, still a lot of work needs to be done with everyone.
That's why we honor that day and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Every year.
We'll be right back.
Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie. Is it just me in this block? Okay, I'm coming. All right, so I want you to check out the calendar. You know it is February 1st, but do you know it's the 32nd day of the year? What is the big deal about that anyway? Okay, according to a poll of 2,000 Americans, it takes the average person 32 days to break a resolution. Today's the day. So I ask you, how are your resolutions and your goals, friends?
I will have to say I have been staying on top of going to the gym and eating healthy, but I could do better with my spending. I've been swiping that plastic a little too much.
Okay. Chilton?
I like that term. I'm using that from now on.
The swiping of the plastic?
Yes, slapping the plastic. I agree. No, I don't make them on purpose because I think it should be something you do all the time, right?
Okay,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if I had a resolution, I don't remember what it was.
Gotcha. All right, so while the first day of February signals the time people say so long to New Year's goals, more than 2 in 3 people said they don't even last that long, not even the 32 days.
Wow.
So if you've thrown in the towel, what do you do to go from there?
You gotta start over.
Start over. Okay, well, here's the thing. I talked to a registered dietitian about it. Here's what she says.
If you feel like you're slipping on your New Year's resolutions, my recommendation is to just edit them a little bit. So if it was to cleanse, then maybe it should just be to eat, vegetables at lunch every day. So edit, don't give up, because the truth is that, there's no end point, right? If you've made a healthy goal, a healthy choice, just swap it.
So I really like that. Edit the resolution. Don't give up on it. Make it more doable. So, Lauren, in your situation, you can be like, okay, I'm only going to swipe it once every 2 days.
Yeah, or once a week. Even better.
Once a week, even better.
The key is that you have to see some progress,
Yes.
right? Even if
Yeah.
it's little, then that keeps you going.
Yeah, because you don't want to just like get upset with yourself for giving up.
Right.
Just keep going. Stay positive.
There's something else the expert said. She says, have someone to be accountable to. And that can be a friend, it can be a doctor, it can be whatever. Of the 2,000 people who were polled for this survey, 40% said if they had a resolution buddy with the same goal, that it would help them. And you know who I thought of with this? I thought of you, Eric Chilton, because you and your wife you've got a common goal.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a personal trainer that lives in our neighborhood. My wife signed up with her a while back, and then she forced me to. But it worked, because I will not do it if someone's there to answer to, or not there to answer to.
Right, and it helps too that Leslie is there too, yes?
Yeah. Now we don't work out at the same time, but the trainer's smart, because she started pitting us against each other. Well, Leslie did this last week. Yeah, and that works.
Right, it is accountability for sure.
Yeah, Lauren, your gym, don't they charge you if you don't go?
Yes, so the gym that I go to, we sign up for classes, and if you don't show up, you get charged. You get like a $12 fee or whatever. So that keeps you going to the gym. So when I wake up at 5 a.m., I'm making sure that I go.
All right, so remember, edit your resolutions. Don't just drop it. We'll be right back.
Well, it's official. After 22 seasons, 7 Super Bowl titles, and 5 Super Bowl MVP awards, the GOAT is hanging it up. Tom Brady announced his retirement today in a statement on Instagram. Word got out on Saturday that he was retiring, then it was reported that he hadn't officially decided. But today, he settled the discussion. Brady thanked his coaches and teammates over the years, saying that he will continue to push them to do their best. As for his future, he says it's a work in progress, but he will continue to work with his companies called Brady, TB12, and Autograph. And talk about going out on top this season, he led the league in passing yards, touchdowns, completions, and attempts. We'll miss seeing him on the field.
All right, now if you think about this, maybe you didn't know this, Super Bowl falls on Valentine's weekend. So it begs the question, how do you balance that situation? I asked you on Facebook, here's what you had to say. Lots of opinions on this one. Melissa says, stay at home, watch the game, celebrate before or after Valentine's Day as always. Avoid the crowd and the overpriced foods. You don't want to go anywhere. Stacy says, early lunch out, then home for the game. That makes sense. I love Robin. Robin says, football comes first. With 2 exclamation marks there. Corey Lugin says, I'm going to buy her a big screen TV and test the game out on it just to make sure it works perfectly. Corey's going to be in trouble. Charlie says, I've been married over 14 years. She'll be fine if we watch the game. And then MD Moore, always with the funny comments. I live alone. I won't mind. There you go. Yeah, I love I need someone to buy her a big screen. That's not
That was about him.
Yeah, he wanted to buy himself that gift.
You know, I think every day should be Valentine's Day. You know,
Yeah,
shower me with love every day, not just on the 14th.
See, I agree.
We didn't really go big, do all out for Valentine's Day. We're just like, okay, maybe like flowers, and then we'll eat a nice dinner. It doesn't necessarily have to be out anywhere. But I would say either go out to eat or eat something nice on Friday or Saturday, and then celebrate big for the game on Sunday.
That's what I think
split it
too.
up.
I mean, just because it happens to be on that day doesn't mean you can't pick a special time to spend with someone.
To me, it's a perfect weekend. You know, hang together, do something Saturday, then it's game all day Sunday. I mean, for me, that's a well-rounded weekend.
Yeah. And if you both love football, that's a perfect Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and if she doesn't love football, then treat her on Saturday or Friday.
Do you guys not watch the game, watch the halftime show, and then you're done? Or do you watch both?
I'm the person that's social in there, eating the Rotel, and I'll watch the halftime show.
It really depends on the teams, I think.
Yeah. That's true.
And what I'm doing, because for the past few years I've been on the morning show, so I wasn't able to stay up and watch the game, but this year I can, so I'm really going to enjoy it. Eat a lot of food.
I remember when I worked the morning shift, I would suffer through the next day because I wanted so badly. But then you end up getting like 2 hours sleep.
Yeah, they're like, why does the weather guy look so tired?
Is it Chilton?
Can't do that.
Can't do 85?
Some
what
bags
happened?
under his eyes.
It's true. All right. Earlier in the show, we introduced you to Mike Kennedy and Michaela Ammonium. Now, these two have an organization called Beyond Sports, and their goal now is to bring quality sports, not only gear, but the programs themselves, to struggling Title I schools. So I spoke with them about their organization. It's a wonderful program and how it's making a difference with these kids. Hey guys, thanks for talking with us today. All right, so now let's get to the solution of the problem that we talked about in the first half hour of the show. Tell me about your organization and what it's doing for Title I schools.
What we're trying to do is really bring opportunities and equipment and things like that to Title I schools to really engage the kids. We're starting with elementary schools and also middle schools. So we're introducing these kids to new and different sports that they've probably some of them have never seen before. And so we're really trying to get them engaged in understanding the benefits of sports, what that can do for them, but also just bringing them the equipment and things like that too that they just simply don't have at these schools.
Tell me about the process. How do you make that happen?
So we're partnering with elementary schools where we're going to the school once a week, and we're bringing A&T student athletes over with us and providing a sports clinic. So we'll have an organization like Fusion or Dillard Elite Basketball or Spartan Elite Wrestling. So we'll bring those sports to the school, as well as mentors and coaches that are student athletes that are not that far removed from those students, and just provide them a fun day, hour of sports.
You know, I mean, let's be honest, it's all about the kids, right? And when you see their faces when something like this happened, can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. And one of the neat things that we've been able to that has really happened that is as Michael had mentioned, the North Carolina A&T students that have come over and just really bonded with these kids. And it's neat to see when you spend a little time with them and their eyes light up and they make their first basket or they catch their first pass or they kick the first soccer ball, and just understanding it's just really, really neat. And you see that it's more than just a game. It's about confidence, it's about inclusion, it's about just something bigger than themselves.
All right, if you're interested in their program, and it's a great organization, don't forget that, Beyond Sports. I've linked you to their website through ours. Just look for this story on WFMYnews2.com. We'll be back.
Till the 4 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5.
Chilton.
Yeah.
Okay, 145. Hey there, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona.
Hey, I guess I need to be in there for now, yes?
10-9-8-7-6-5-4.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mic check 1, 2, 3.
We just heard from firefighters about an hour ago.
Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's time for my 2 cents. These are the images we woke up to this morning. The Weaver Fertilizer Plant in Winston-Salem on fire. It's hard to see. A plant with 80 years of history in the Triad burning. A place of business and employment for many. But our community is strong. As we watch the flames and billowing smoke from the plant, there are first responders putting their lives at risk to protect us. Teams from multiple agencies in the area have been working around the clock and won't stop until the fire is out and the community is safe. Overnight, firefighters fighting the blaze as police officers drove through neighborhoods alerting people to evacuate. Let me be the first one to say thank you. Thank you for risking your own safety to save thousands of people in the community. Please know your efforts don't go unnoticed. You are all heroes and deserve the recognition. That's just my 2 cents. That's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now.
A massive fire